Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Tuesday afternoon. Could be Wednesday for some of you. How is it in the future? Is the future better? Because the past or the present, it's questionable. Hope you're all well. If you are tuning in live here on Behance, let me know in the chat who you are and where you're tuning in from. We've got Sam and Edwin and Lexine and Aubrey and Kita and Cornell and Umacorn, Jelena, Matt. Great to see familiar faces, new faces. Snehal, great to see everyone. Hope you're all well. Let me know. Who went Wednesday over there? And some of you, it's like 3:30 in the morning. I don't know why I said this yesterday, I don't know why you're awake at 3:30 in the morning, but I appreciate all of you tuning in and spending some time with me. All right, so Daily Creative Challenge, day number 6? I think it's day number 6. I think that's the one. Behance.net/challenge/XD. Head over here to get all the information about the challenge. This is the last week of this set of challenges. And then I believe possibly there's another one after this. I said yesterday that we're going into the holiday season. So I don't know what's happening. Maybe one of the mods in the chat knows what's going on. I should probably find these things out. But there'll be more challenges. Absolutely more. So every single day, you're going to receive a challenge Monday to Friday, except the first Monday, which is the welcome stream. You can join us in our Discord community chat. And again, I'm not myself lately. I'm going to open up Discord. Usually I have all this stuff prepared and ready to go. But it's 2020 and we're all in this together. So here's Discord, over 55,000 designers in Discord. It's a great place. Just hang out, share your work, talk with the community, have a good time. So jump in there. You can get information about the daily challenges. You can ask questions, get career advice. I clearly haven't been in here lately, but I'll hop in there at some point. You can watch me live Monday to Friday, 2 o'clock Pacific time. Next week, there'll be someone else. I would assume. Again, I don't know. And then you can share your work on Behance using the hashtag XDDailyChallenge or on Discord, like I just showed you. All right, so let's recap a little bit. Last week, we started off this process with a landing page, and we used a background blur to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of fun. Then we moved on to interactive maps, and we used scroll groups, one of my favorite features in XD. Then we talked about a drop-down menu, and we also, explored some sort of like a navigation or what is it called? Notifications. See, I'm just not myself. Using nested hover. And then we went on to cart flip using auto animate and 3D transforms. Yesterday was a really fun one. I'm not going to be able to match yesterday's today, but yesterday we explored augmented reality. We created a cyberpunk scene using 3D transforms. I uploaded a little bit of that to Twitter as well, so go follow me there, check out that post. I think Matt also, if you're following Matt, I think he quoted it with a bunch of eyes. I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Matt? But thank you, I appreciate that. And today we're going to be talking about presentation templates. Now, certainly not as sexy as yesterday's augmented reality cyberpunk experience, but it could be super helpful. I create all my presentations in Adobe XD. Many people at Adobe use XD for their presentations. You can use auto animate to create fun interactions between two artboards. You can use gamepad triggers, keyboard triggers, a lot of fun things you can do with presentations in XD. So what we're going to do, I'm going to hop into the starter file. Here we go. It's going to load. It's going to pop up Creative Cloud in a second. Yep, I definitely want to download this file. Here it goes. Look at that. Isn't that magic? And it popped open over here. There we go. Matt says, I've got my eyes on it. Thank you, Matt. All right. So here are some examples of what a presentation could look like. And of course, presentations, we've all done presentations in Keynote and PowerPoint. There's no one way to do a presentation. So take what you learned today and apply it to your own designs. And when we get into talking about components and states, almost using them as slide templates, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Cara is saying, watch yesterday's replay, exact aesthetic I'm going for. Thanks for all the VR inspiration. You're welcome. Some cool things you can do in XD. All right, so we are going to start on the fairly basic level with a title slide, right? We all need a title slide in our presentation. So I'm going to grab the good old rectangle tool, draw one out, and we're just going to use this as a mask, right? I'm going to change the color just so you can see it against the white artboard. And if I hop over to Finder, I've got a bunch of cool patterns that I might want to use for this particular title slide. Now, since this particular title slide is going to be very basic, it's going to be a background image and some text, I want to be careful of, not using things like this. They're very cool, right? And we're definitely going to add one of these in the next example. But, there's a lot going on, and it's going to be difficult for text to be readable. So I'm going to go into this folder here, and I've got some fairly basic patterns, and boop, there we go. Look at that. Fancy. We've got a background. It's not too busy. It'll work. Now, in terms of the text, I'm going to grab my text tool, shortcut key T, and just type out title goes here. And again, I'm making these as templates, so I can always refer to these, load them in, and then, add in the content a little bit later. I'm going to make this larger, just like that. And we've already got, look, it's like XD knows me. Poppins is already selected. That's what I was going to do. Although we can experiment, right? Extra bold. Let me make sure to center this. We can go black, right? So it's nice and heavy. We can also try, let's say, Josephine Sands, which I've been using lately. It's not bad. I think I want more of a heavier typeface, so I'm going to go back to Poppins. It looks pretty good. There's also the Mostra. Depending on the situation, it might be something you might want to go for. But what's really nice is as you're building out these templates, what I would suggest is hop into your libraries panel, right down here at the bottom, and then go into your document assets, which should be the default view, and make sure to add these as character styles. That way, if you do have many title slides going across your presentation, you can easily just make the change once. So I can right click, press edit. I can type in Comic Sans, fantastic typeface. If you're not using Comic Sans, I would recommend it. Maybe I won't. And you can make that change across your entire document, which is wonderful. So here's one title slide. Looks pretty good, right? But the point of this is to really show how you can use components and states to have various options for your titles, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these layers, just like that, and I'm going to turn this into a component. You can do that within your Properties Inspector over to the right. You can do that back in your Libraries panel, just like that. Umacorn says, finally got Poppins to load. Yes, you're one of us now. It's a great typeface. I think Andrea Hawk got me onto Poppins, and I just haven't turned back. You can also do a component or create a component right down here, just like that, and we have our title slide, right? Twin says Papyrus would be better, possibly. Hey, you can very easily do it right here. Bam, look at that. Now we're making presentations for Avatar. Looks great. All right, so we've got our first title slide. Looks okay, right? It's on a basic level. But now we might want an additional option. So right over here to the right, under the Components section within your Properties Inspector, press the plus button and create a new state. And this might be, let's say, I don't know, diagonal. Just like that. Did I spell that right? Probably not, but we're going to run with it. And now that the state has been created and is active, we can just dive in here and make changes. Now, I'm going to move the title over here. We will be making some changes to this in a second. And what I want to do is okay, here's what we're going to do. I was going to change the background color to a different pattern, but I want to be able to, kind of set the stage first, right? So I'm going to grab a rectangle one more time and just drag one across my artboard. And I'm going to make sure to move it behind the title, just like that. Now, of course, you can't see the title. So in the meantime, I'm going to change it to this purple. We're going to change that in a moment. But I want to give a little bit of style to this particular container. So I'm going to double click on this rectangle and just play around with the points, just like this. So I have, this nice diagonal line going across. It snaps to my artboard really nicely. So on this side, we can add in an image of our choosing, right? And on this side, we can put some information about this particular presentation or slide. So going back to Finder, now I can grab one of these crazier patterns and pop it in, and it's not really going to affect the title, right? So in terms of the title, I might want to just sample one of these colors, and I can grab my line tool, shortcut key L, and whoop, drag one out just like that. Maybe I'll sample this nice purple down here, make it a little bit longer or wider. There we go. Edwin saying, can you do a challenge only using papyrus and Comic Sans? Interesting. Interesting, Edwin. Maybe I'll do that. I will maybe do that one. Maybe for one of my master classes. I'm going to challenge myself to do that. And then here, I'm going to drag out, maybe this might house some sort of an image, right? I'm going to change the color. Now, one thing you can do, right? Of course, you could go ahead and grab an image and actually pop it into here, right? However, you can start using plugins for some of these images. So into the plugins panel I go. There are a bunch of plugins that we're going to look at shortly, right? But one of my favorites is Quick Mockup. And what this could allow me to do, I can hop into the Mockup section and I can designate this as a certain element. So if I go into right here, so I've got all these different items and templates and things like that. Of course, you can use templates to kind of get started. But you can also, let's say this might be, where is an image, right? So I can grab an image here and, I can sync it with Quick Mockup and I can do whatever I need to do. So you can grab, right? You can grab these images and pop them in here. That way you can, have different states, asset types, and that sort of thing. So a lot of really cool plugins that you can use as you're building out these templates. And of course, like I mentioned, you can also use plugins to grab images. I'm gonna show you that in just a moment. But what I want you to focus on now, there we go. That looks okay. Not great, but it looks okay, right? But if you take a look at the properties inspector over to the right, we have our default state and we have our diagonal state. So no matter what kind of style you're looking to present, you can just change up your states just like this, right? That looks pretty good. All right, so one more thing we might want to do is start adding in components or, elements that will be used on a transition. So I'm thinking, right, I might want to transition to another artboard that maybe shows a bunch more images, right? There's a lot of different, let's see if there's an example over on here. Doesn't look like there is, but we've all seen presentations where there's just a bunch of images. There's a central image in the middle, and then there's a bunch of images floating around, right? So what I want to do here is I can go ahead and create one more new state, right? And this will just be image bubbles, for example, right? And what I can do is I can grab these, maybe drag these out a little bit. I'm not going to go the entire way because I do want a little bit of that image kind of popping through, right? Maybe this image will be one of the bubbles. Let me go ahead just for now. I'm going to hide these just like that. And then we can start adding additional elements. So I can grab my polygon. Maybe we'll do 6 sides, for example, right? Rotate it. Let me round out the corners a little bit. I can also round out the corners using the handle on the inside of this polygon, right? Whoa, where am I going? So this one's going to be the central image. So I'm going to make this nice and large, just like that. And then I can start adding in some additional circles kind of floating around. And these will be the secondary images. Maybe I'll make some very small circles here, maybe one over here, another big one here, and then one more about that size there, right? I can grab all these, make sure they're nice and centered, and just really start to tweak this. And then maybe to show that all of these are connected, we can start adding some lines. So with the line tool, shortcut key L, I'll just drag one out, just like that. I'll make it a little bit thicker, right? And I'll increase, I'll play around with the gashes and the dashes and the gaps, tongue twisters, right? Maybe I'll round out the caps like that until I get something that's looking kind of interesting. That looks okay. And I can play around, this is a template. So, maybe we're not too concerned about the colors at the moment, but of course, if you set it to an interesting color like this, and then add that color to your assets, you can very easily change that color later across all of your states, all of your components, and all that fun stuff, right? So I'm gonna move this back, just like that, and I can start adding some more. There we go. Add another one up here. Again, just to show that all of these are connected to whatever is going on in this particular presentation. Right there, down to the bottom. There we go. And then we'll do one more on this side. Perfect. All right. So we've got this kind of web of images going on, right? And it looks okay. So again, we have our default state, we have our diagonal state, and we have our image bubbles. Now, one thing I want to point out is if you do want to make sure that an animation can take place between, let's say, state number 2, which is our diagonal state, and state number 3, which is the one with the bubbles, you want to make sure that all of these elements are present on both of the states. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these elements here, right? All these web looking things. I'm going to group them, and I'll just call this image bubble. There's probably an actual name for this, but we're going to run with image bubble. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to make sure to paste it inside of my diagonal state as well, right? And I can make changes to this. So maybe I want a little bit of animation to take place as the transition's happening. So I can maybe shrink some of these bubbles, maybe move them inwards a little bit, right? Just like this. I can grab some of these lines, bring them in a touch, shrink these down. Of course, I can also shrink many of these down at the same time, but I do want to show you how this can be done. Like that, bring this, maybe I'll bring that all the way in. Bring this one in, shrink the little bubble, whoop, shrink, and there we go, right? And then maybe I'll also want to move this entire group over to the right. That's the left. And of course, you know, we don't want it seen initially, so I'm going to simply turn the opacity down to 0. So now that all of these elements are inside of state number 2, we can start animating this, right? So what I'm going to do, you can animate between states if you want to, but to see it visually, I know when we're creating presentations, we want to see these things visually. So I'm going to simply duplicate this artboard over to the right, right? So I selected the artboard, Command and Control D, and shifted it over. And now I can just switch it over to the image bubbles state, right over here to the right, right? There we go. So, like we've looked at a few times during these challenges, we want to be able to wire this up for prototyping. So I'm going to hop into prototype mode. And what I can do is, you can set up a trigger on specific objects if you want. You can use the entire artboard and just drag the handle over to the right, but you can also use keys and gamepads. So if you want to assign a certain, let's say, arrow, right? You can assign the right arrow to go to that next artboard. And you want to make sure that auto animate is selected over here within the properties inspector, so XD notices the differences and makes those animations. And we'll go for ease in and out, and let's say 0.8 seconds might be a little bit too short. Might be a little bit too long, but we're going to see what happens. And we're going to press play, press the right arrow, and there we go, right? Now, of course, you can dive in and make additional changes. So if I want to dive in here, maybe this title, right? Maybe I just want these to kind of move down a little bit, just like that. Maybe this one will move down even more, and then we'll drop the opacity, right? Just to add a little bit of motion to this. And one more time, zoom, right? Now this image here, I noticed there was, remember that bubble that was up here? So let's talk a little bit, right? If you noticed, that bubble up at the top kind of faded away. And you're probably asking, why did it fade? Because we moved it right over here. So it should kind of move over there, right? Well, it's because we actually, on the second slide, or the second state, we place it into a group. So what I want to do is just grab this ellipse and just pop it into a group, right? And this one actually will be, okay, so I went ahead and I decreased the opacity of all of these. So I want to go ahead and increase the opacity of, or decrease the opacity of these. There we go. And then in the second state, okay, that should work. Let's see. That's better. right? Fancy. All right, so again, it's a template. So you're gonna definitely be popping some images in there. And speaking of images, if you are looking for images, plugins are, one of your best friends. So if I go to that image bubbles slide, right? Let me hop in and grab this particular shape here. Hopping into my plugins one more time, we've got plugins like Stock Image. We also have the Pixels plugin, which was developed by Kenny Kroski, who works at Adobe, good friend of mine. And this will allow you to search images. So let's say this might be, I don't know, burritos maybe? Tacos. Let's look for a taco. These are fantastic. So I'm gonna grab this image. It's gonna pop it in. These are pretty large images, so it might take a second or two. There we go. While that's going, Faisal is saying this class is really important, not for only students, but also corporate offices. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm planning on doing more videos, specific videos, on presentations using Adobe XD. So stay tuned for that, right? So let's go ahead and add a few more taco images. Again, these are large images, so that wasn't too bad. Let's add this one here. Aren't you all getting very hungry? I know I am. Right, and let's say this taco here looks pretty good. We'll go to another page. This just looks all so delicious. All right, that looks just great, right? Now, watch this. We got tacos here too. And that is because what we did, we edited the image bubbles state on the main component, which is the one. Wait, you thought I added toy faces? I would add toy faces. Not today. We're gonna skip toy faces today. But I edited the main component, the one with the solid diamond, and because I edited one of the states on that main component, it pushed those changes to all of these, which is wonderful, right? Oops, I gotta switch back to my diagonal state. There we go. And there we go. Now I do want to change that red color a little bit. So what I'm going to do, back in my assets, I'm going to right click, press edit, and let's actually sample one of these purples. That looks pretty cool. Maybe this purple here, right? And there we go. So it changed it. And not only on the visible states, but also the hidden states as well. What's the name of the plugin? It is called Pixels. That one right there. There we go. Perfect. All right. So Cornell's asking, are those videos going to be published on YouTube or Behance? So it'll be on YouTube. I'll also post on Twitter and all those fun places. But I'm going to try to also incorporate, I'll be running another daily challenge, I think in February. But so I'll try to incorporate more presentation-like things on my future challenges as well. So let's do one more. So if I go ahead and grab my artboard, and this will be a completely separate kind of presentation. So let's go ahead and choose, let's say, web. And by the way, when you're choosing an artboard for these presentations, it's a good idea to go 1920 by 1080, considering it'll be displayed on high resolution computers and also, what are they called? Televisions, those things, right? We only have a few minutes left. So let's go very quickly, do one more. Probably not going to be able to get through this, but we're going to try, right? Let's add like a nice neon background like that. Grab a rectangle. We're gonna create a very quick phone display, right? Just like that. And I'm gonna duplicate. We're gonna make this a bit smaller from the center, holding down Alt or Option, like that. Adjust the corners a little bit. Boolean objects, subtract it. Maybe I'll pull this in just a touch. And now we have a nice phone case, or phone, what is it called? This device frame. I'm losing my mind, people. And then we can use this separate shape as a mask. So any of the presentations or any of the designs that you've created over this challenge, you can pop directly into this mask and use this shape to mask everything. And you have a really nice presentation. You can make several templates, or you can make several, there's a component and you create another state, right? And just basically change up the background on these various states. Maybe you have approved images from your employer and you can just cycle through the one that you need. So that's going to do it for me for today. Big thank you to everyone who has joined me. Stick around, Andrew and Micah, I believe, are coming up right after this with Design in the Dark. I'm going to be back tomorrow, and I will see you all next time.